All right, well, first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who is on this Zoom this evening for our very special Juneteenth presentation. So I want to say happy Juneteenth, everybody. We know that this is a very special holiday, so thank you for spending part of it with us on this Zoom. So I'll quickly read Anne's bio, and then we'll let her take over the floor. This is what we're all here for. So Elizabeth Ann Gaines Ali is the creator and founder of the group Black Seminoles of the Oklahoma Seminole Nation IT and Friends. She is a longtime enrolled member of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma Caesar Bruner Band, and is the youngest 3G granddaughter of the Negro Abraham and his wife Rachael. She is a highly qualified certified teacher with multiple subject area certifications in the regular education curriculum, special education curriculum, and is TABE certified, adult alternative education. She has taught students in age ranges of 5 years of age, with her oldest student being 83 years old, and has served as a Community Preventionist Coordinator at the Eagle Ridge Institute, Oklahoma City, where she presented drug and alcohol abuse education presentations to communities throughout the state, and also helped community fractions bridge conflicting interests. Anne is also a second-generation retired law enforcement officer, having served as a patrol officer, detective, investigator, and supervisory lieutenant with the Oklahoma City Police Department. She also served as an investigative major with the Langston Police Department. Anne is known to have an established reputation in the fight for equity and justice in the workplace. Anne is a member of the American Federation of Teachers, AFT, and the National Education Association, NEA. An ordained member of the clergy, Anne has served as a supply pastor in Bristow, Oklahoma, and as a lead pastor in Ardmore, Oklahoma, 12th Episcopal District of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and was also elected as a worship leader in the 12th Episcopal District of the AME Church. She currently serves on the ministerial team of the St. Augustine of Canterbury Episcopal Church, which is located in Oklahoma City. Anne is a military veteran, having served honorably in the United States Army Reserves and the Oklahoma Air National Guard. She is a lifetime member of Disabled American Veterans, DAV, and the American Legion, and is a former radio announcer, host of the Queen's Fish Fry, a blues show that aired on KALU Radio 89.3 FM, as well as the host of the Golden Moments of Gospel broadcast, which aired on Oklahoma City's KTLV AM 1220. Anne is a member of numerous historical societies, organizations, and Masonic organizations. Some of her hobbies are inclusive of cooking, reading, writing, traveling, singing, and playing instruments. She describes herself, and I would describe her as a true generational Renaissance woman. So without further ado, here is Ms. Anne Elizabeth Gaines Ali. And again, Anne, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. When I was preparing for today, I get everything set up, and I looked up on the shelf in my living room, and I ran across this. So there's a little story behind this. This is my mother's ancestral bell. And when we would have meetings with our family down in Seminole, where we would gather throughout the year, we'd meet about 4 or 5 times a year. And we'd have a large meeting on Memorial Day weekend, and we would have a church service, and we'd have a family meeting where we discuss family history, and then we would eat, okay? And then we would disperse. However, before the meeting actually started, before the church service that would go with that also started, our families would gather at their own separate cemeteries. Now, I'm going to go into that a little bit later, because in Seminole County, we have more than one cemetery where our Black Seminoles and our mixed race Seminoles are buried, okay? Some of them are in great condition. Some of them are not in not so great condition. So, and I'll talk about that in great detail here in just a moment. But before I begin, I want to ring the bell for the ancestors. I'm going to ask that they come in and that they guide this meeting, and that they can bring any ideas or things that we may need to know into this meeting. Let me say it's a wonderful pleasure to be back with Siska, because the last time I was anywhere near someone from Siska, other than February when you and Karina came up, I was 5 years old, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But when we'd have our meetings, we'd open up with a song, and this is the community song. It's cross-cultural. I don't know if you guys normally sing this song, but we would. I realized that we were in danger of losing this piece of history, this song, because I eulogized a relative's funeral a couple of years ago. And I sang that song at the funeral, expecting the rest of the family that were gathered there to join in and sing it, because these were the same people who were meeting with us back in the 70s and in the 80s, okay? And no one knew the song. And I'm like, oh my God, guys, have you forgotten? We used to sing this all the time. And like I said, it's a cross-cultural song. And we'll talk about cross-cultural songs too, because Wendy and I and Chief Johnson ended up singing a song that was cross-cultural, okay? That you guys down in Brackettville still sing in Nacimiento. So this is a song that we would open up our meetings with, and for the purposes of this meeting is going to be an anthropologist's dream. The reason that I'm doing this is because we never know. We're not promised tomorrow, okay? So we never know. We need to get this information out there. And what better to get it out there than from someone who's experienced it, who's lived it. So we will begin our meetings with this song. And I'm using the djembe for the effect of feet padding on the floor in the old wooden church, because that's where we typically met at. So. Old icy man, been in my land. Old icy man, been in my land. Well, cold icy man, been in my land. By and by, don't you grieve after me. When I'm gone, don't you grieve after me. When I'm gone, don't you grieve after me. When I'm gone, don't you grieve after me. By and by, don't you grieve after me. This may be the last time. This may be the last time. This may be the last time. Maybe the last time. I don't know. Well, it may be the last time you hear me sing. Maybe the last time. I don't know. Well, it may be the last time you hear me sing. Maybe the last time. I don't know. Let me tell you that this may be the last time. This may be the last time. This may be the last time. Maybe the last time. I don't know. All right.
Beautiful.
Again, just remember the ancestors. We lost one yesterday. Willie Mays. Birmingham Black Barons. Let's see. There's my Negro Leagues cap. Birmingham Black Barons. Right there, BBB. That's the insignia for their team. He was a member of the Negro Leagues prior to moving to the majors. And in honor of Juneteenth, this is a book that's in my library. It's called The Counter-Revolution of 1836, Texas Slavery and Jim Crow and the Roots of U.S. Fascism by Professor Gerald Horne out of the University of Houston. And I'm gonna read a passage from the beginning of chapter 18 in honor of Juneteenth. Just give you a little education here, okay? It's at the very top of the page, chapter 18. You can find this book on Amazon, you know, just write it down or email me, I'll send it to you. But anyway, the first paragraph says, or half of it says, the African known as Lew Lee was once enslaved in Texas. Subsequently, he recalled that Master Wash Ingram had 350 slaves when the war was over, but he didn't turn us loose till a year after surrender. This experience was not unique. The scholar Robert Walter Shook wrote that by late 1865, Negroes were reportedly in virtual slavery in the region between the Natchez and the Sabine, as far north as Henderson. By the summer of 1866, now remember this, 1866. By the summer of 1866, Brevet Major General C.C. Andrews held the opinion that the reestablishment of slavery was imminent. Now, this is in 1866, okay? Juneteenth, the folks were made aware in 1865. This is a year later. We still get folks in bondage. Hold up. While John T. Allen asserted that secessionists still held Negroes in bondage, hoping for compensation. The notorious Bob Lee gang were among what Shook termed the organized companies of brigands that roamed Texas in the late 1860s and were wanted for holding Negroes in bondage until July of 1866, suggesting an updated version of the human trafficking that characterized the unlamented African slave trade. So there were still Negroes being held in bondage in Texas until July of 1866. Go figure. All right. I want to start off by telling you who I am, and I appreciate the bio and everything, but how I came about starting the group. It's on Facebook 7 years ago. It's been in existence. I was on vacation in Georgia. I go to Georgia several times a year. I stop through Alabama and hollered a few friends. I've got some friends in Mississippi. I got some in Tennessee. It just depends on which way I choose to travel, but I try to get by and say hello to everyone. But I read something that just pissed me off. And I said, when I get home, I'm gonna fix this if Lord wills that I get home. But I read a blog, an article on the internet that said that all the Black Seminoles were dead or they didn't know who they were. And that pissed me off because just as I'm sitting here talking to you right now, I'm not dead. So as soon as I got home, I said, I'm going to go ahead and start the group. I'm glad I did. And the group is an independent entity. Okay. I try to keep everything mainstream and in the middle so that everyone can participate. Everyone can post something if they want to. More importantly, everyone can reconnect and learn something. So that's how the group got started 7 years ago. So right now we have close to 800 members on the group. And that's pretty well much how we got here today. I'm going to share some photos with you, and I hope that's okay. I understand that this is being recorded for posterity's sake, but I just wanted to say that back, and I'm pulling out my iPad here. Can you guys see this okay? I'm going to share a lot of pictures on my iPad you can see, okay? And I'm doing this for posterity's sake because we never know. This little girl right here, in 1972, this photo was taken. And let me get the rest of the picture so you can see this little girl is the woman that you're talking to today. I'm 57 years old. I was 5 years old when that photo was taken. However, that picture was taken at a family meeting down in Seminole County. And forgive me for not looking into the screen because I'm trying to find this picture on my iPad. But that picture was taken at a family meeting down in Seminole County. And it was decided at that time that we would send a contingent from Oklahoma to the dedication ceremony of the, and I do believe that's what it was, the Seminole Indian Scouts, where the Medal of Honor winners were being recognized, because it had been decided that we needed, the young people like me needed to know and be aware. This is the rest of that picture, okay? Everyone in this picture didn't go, but most of the people in this picture have passed on to glory. They are with the ancestors now. That's me on the trike trying to get out of the picture, okay? The woman right here with her foot on the back of the trike trying to keep me in the picture is my mother, okay? The reason, and I'll tell you this, the reason why I was trying to get out of the picture on the tricycle was because I was excited, because they had just told us that we were going to Brackettsville and to Mexico. So I kept saying Brackettsville and Mexico, and I wanted to ride off into the sunset, but my mother would not let me go because the family was trying to take a picture. So that's why she's kind of leaning forward on that. I will share this. Out of the people who went in this photo, as of last Thursday, July 9th, I am the only living person that went with that group from Seminole County to Brackettsville and on into Mexico. So you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth right here. I have always shared my story about how when I was a little girl, we went to Brackettsville and we went to Nacimiento and we did all this other stuff and some things I'm not going to go into because I'm saving that for another project. But I have been met with I used to be met with all sorts of pushback and yeah, right, you know, how could you do this? And the reason being was that unfortunately, someone else had gone ahead of me and had put out another story, okay? And had told people that we were all gone, we were all dead, and that, hey, that was it. Believe them, don't believe us, we don't know who we are. And that hurt. That hurt quite a bit. But I knew over time that time would change that, okay? I'm gonna pull up the results of a DNA test, and I encourage everyone because it really helped to support my story, the story that I have always told, the story that has been the truth, okay? Because I was there, and there were some folks saying they were there that were not there because they didn't even know who they were at the time. So I have to say that because it hurt and it's the truth. But let's see, come on here. If you look closely, that says, can you read that? It says Juan Torralba. That's Karina's dad. We know Karina Torralba from the organization. Okay, we're DNA cousins, we're blood. He's not the only one. Okay, let me pull up some more here. When I was there, I remember them telling me that one of the CMH winners was a distant cousin, and that would be Pompey Factor. Okay, I'm gonna pull up another one for you here. It's right here. That's Karina's brother. We're DNA cousins. Okay, I'm gonna pull up another one. Melanie Ybarra. Anyone know Melanie? We're DNA cousins. Okay. I'm gonna go pull up some more because I want the truth needs to get out there. You guys have roots here in Indian territory. Some of those names became miscombobulated. Bruner would be turned into Bruno. Okay. Anthony Bruno and I are cousins. Let me find it, me and Anthony's picture. We're related to the Vasquez. Here we go. Anthony Bruno, okay? DNA cousin on my mom's side. Lauren Vasquez, DNA cousins on my mom's side. Let's see here. Hang on, bear with me, guys, because I believe in presenting evidence here. Marcelo Vasquez, DNA cousins. I've learned that some of our other cousins have the last name of Gonzalez. We got Gonzalez, Torralba, Bruno, Greiners, okay? And the Greiner is gonna lead us to Pompey, okay? That's how that comes into. We're distant cousins of Pompey. Interestingly enough, and let me throw this into that, I used to work with a man by the name of Harold Factory. Harold was a retired firefighter, Oklahoma City. He worked for the Department of Corrections. He has passed on to the ancestors. Harold and I were sitting down talking one day, and I was telling Harold about my heritage, and he said, you know, I'm Black Seminole as well. And he said, and factory came from factor. So if you're doing your research, you might want to write that information down or just replay this video. I understand it's going to be recorded, but factor, F-A-C-T-O-R, will later become factory, okay? So I'm going to ask that when you're doing your research, that you just kind of be lenient until you can get some answers and take all the notes that you can. Well, Ann, how do you know about doing genealogical research? Well, when I was in the 6th grade and was getting on my mother's nerves one summer, she said, I'm going to take you up to the library, which is in walking distance to my house, and you can stay busy in the daytime. Well, at that time, there was a director at that library, which was the Black library. Her name was Gertrude Richardson. And she said that I can come volunteer that summer, okay? So while I was in service there at the library, I ran into Gertrude Richardson as the director, and then another man, someone else would come along as the director. His name was Ackland Banks. And part of my volunteering job was to help people with their genealogical research, okay? I was in the 6th grade, okay? That's when I really started putting paper and pencil to that. Now let me press pause for just a moment. In my house, at this house with my parents, I started learning about family history from the time I could basically understand. More specifically, Saturday mornings with my mother, that's what we did while we were cleaning the house. She was telling me who we were and how we got here. And there were some things I shouldn't forget. So I learned a lot of history from her that way. Over the decades, I've heard from a lot of different people who are racist and feel that we shouldn't be in the tribe, that there's no way we could be. And I'm like, well, sir, you're wrong, because we intermarried. We're just as much Seminole as you are. Why do you guys keep treating us like crap? But the point I'm trying to make here, and the story that I'm going to tell right now, is that my mother told me that I had a cousin that was one of the wives of Chief Osceola. Okay. Now, if you get in a meeting somewhere with a bunch of natives, a lot of them are going to shout you down over that. Okay. But from my perspective in the family tree, he was married to a cousin who was a Black woman. Okay. Our tribes intermarried. They don't want you to know that. They don't want to accept that. And I really think, and I've been told just from talking to different historians, that a lot of this really came about after we got to Indian territory and they started intermingling with the Creeks. And over the years, the things just got worse and worse and worse. And for example, I'm fast forwarding. I'm gonna press pause and fast forward to the Judgment Fund situation, because this came from my own family. I sat at the foot of my elders and watched some of them cry. And they were upset with the Judgment Fund situation and when the casinos came about, and this is a while back, and how the tribe treated us and wouldn't allow us to get jobs, wouldn't allow us to do a whole bunch of things. And this is what I want you to remember. They received federal funding. They received money from the government, okay? But they still discriminate against us and won't accept us as full members. People had to die so that we could get health care, okay? People had to die so that we could get health care, okay? Just remember that we always have to fight, us dark-skinned Indians. Okay, there are situations, I'm gonna go back a little further and circle back around to where I'm trying to get to. There are situations in my own family, my mother's side, Dawes Commission. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna show you even better. Situations where you had parents, native, full-blood Seminole, wife, married to dark man, dark skin, mixed race African American, okay? Same mom and dad. Dawes Commission, Dawes agent comes around. The light-skinned kids went on the native by blood road. The dark-skinned kids with the same parents went on the Freedman road. Okay? It was that kind of foolishness that happened. I'm going to show you a picture here of my late cousin, John Fay. John Fay is listed on the by blood roll. He's a dark-skinned man. Okay, but if you pull his paperwork up, you're going to find him on the by blood roll. We come in all flavors. We come in all shades, but we're not always treated the same. Okay? When Wendy and Karina came up in February and I met them down at the museum, I shared my story of how I came to the museum to visit, just to look around and see the exhibits back between 2012 and 2016. I shared how I had on my clergy collar, because at that time I was the pastor of an AME church in South Central Oklahoma. And I was passing through that way. I said, let me stop. I've got some time. Let me stop at the museum right quick. When I walked into the museum, they treated me like shit. Like they made me feel uncomfortable, like I didn't have a right to be there. And I've got native blood in my veins. And I had my clergy collar on. Okay, so I'm trying to be nice and kind. and I'm asking questions. I look around and I tell the person there, I said, I am the third great granddaughter of Abraham. And they just scoffed, blew me off. Okay. It's stuff like that that we go through. So when Wendy and Karina came to town, I just let them know I appreciate the fact this is the first, because we haven't been welcome in this space. Okay. They don't like us darker skinned Indians up in here. You know, I read somewhere in an article where Black folks in the tribe of the freedmen didn't know what grape dumpling was. And I told the chief, I said, that's a lie, because I grew up on blue dumplings all my life. That's another term for the same type of food. Blue dumplings, safki, fried bread. Yes, I know how to cook those. Okay. I was taught that's part of the culture. That's what I was taught. Even though I'm here in the city, I was still taught that because we were down in Seminole all the time. Okay. Seminole came up here all the time. Okay. We were very proud of our culture. We were very proud of who we are. And that is why I tell you, talk to your children, talk to your grandchildren, let them know the history. Or just like it was with the song that I sang at the beginning, don't forget, it'll go away. Or I think someone put it best. This is another book that's in my library. Someone put it real well. We'll become invisible men. Okay, Ralph Ellison. This last paragraph, which is one of the best ones that sums everything up. He says, he only wanted to listen to him rave, but only partially true. Being invisible and without substance, a disembodied voice, which is what we have been treated like. We have been invisible. We're treated without substance. We're treated as disembodied voices. Being invisible and without substance, a disembodied voice, as it were. What else could I do? What else but try to tell you what was really happening when your eyes were looking through? All of this is going on and we all have our eyes open, but it still goes on. And it is this which frightens me. Who knows, but that on the lower frequencies, I speak for you. We all go through this. We're all unseen Indians. They deny us our ancestry. They don't want to accept us. And, you know, when we were at that meeting, they kicked us out of the tribe at one time. Well, we're back in the tribe now. Throw that back in there. When we were at the Black History meeting, which was the first at the museum this past February 2024, all these years, 2024. The Chief Johnson made a statement. We don't refer to you as Black Seminoles. We refer to you as Seminoles. I just looked at him and smiled. Because I've been living in this situation all my life. I know how y'all treated us. You know, here's the deal. You're members of the nation, but you're not members of the tribe. Can I get a tag? Nope, you're not members of the tribe. You're members of the nation. Okay. But my great-great-grandmother was a full-blood Seminole. Well, we're not recognizing that. Minerva Austin Maupin, George Maupin, my great-great-uncle, they're buried at the Maupin family cemetery down in Conowall. Full-bloods. They don't recognize us because we're not wanted. We're too Black. But these are the same tribes that receive federal funding to operate, breaking the law. Now, a couple of years ago, that was brought to the attention of some people in Congress, and they're talking. There've been some discussions, let me put it like that, okay? But like I said earlier, back during COVID, when it was hot and heavy, and COVID's still out there. Don't forget it. It's still out there. I had a cousin just caught it a month ago. Okay, so you still need to take your precautions, especially if you have pre-existing conditions. But we had people who could not go to the Indian healthcare clinic like they needed to because that was all they had, and couldn't get a vaccine because the tribe wouldn't let them, because you're members of the nation and you're not members of the tribe. Okay, so that's enough of that for right now. Let me move on a little bit. I worked at the library. Okay, I had certain people pour into my life and show me things, how to research and do different things. So I mentioned the late Gertrude Richardson, Ackland Banks, Betty Germany, late Menthy Ballard, Denavetta Davis. I had these brothers pour into me as well. They were police officers, and my dad was police officer. I'm second generation Oklahoma City. And these guys were Oklahoma City police officers and judges, but they poured into me. They helped push me along to be bold. They taught me things. And one person is the late John Campbell, JC. Okay, he died a couple of weeks ago. The late Wesley Hound Dog Dawson, he passed away. Judge Charlie Hill, he passed away. These are some of the men. Lawrence Jarrett, he's still here. All right. These are some of the men who poured into my life along with my dad to help me become the strong woman that I am today. Dr. Carl Barkley Sr. My interests, my passions have always been history, thanks to the late James Hamilton. Okay. Mr. Ted Metcher, who's still alive, very much alive. Some of my history teachers from high school, Coach Poindexter, Princeton Poindexter, Pretty Poin, Langston University, and Mr. Alex Lewis. These are all people who inspired me and helped me to learn and to be interested in history and to do what I'm doing today. Just to give you a tidbit of history here, the phase during the time of allotment were given land. It wasn't always the best land, but we got our 40 acres and a mule. Actually, it was more than 40 acres. I'm just using that as a term of endearment. But I'm going to show you a picture of an example of an allotment certificate that I have among several, the originals. Okay. Let's see. But we were given our own land. This is from 1901, August 14th. That's what it looks like. Okay, that's an original Seminole Nation allotment certificate. Now, let me say this. One of the reasons why things were so tense between the Seminoles, who were dark-skinned, and the regular Seminoles was because we were able to do some things, even though we had been placed behind the 8 ball to start. A lot of our land ended up being bottom land. You couldn't do a whole lot with bottom land during certain times of the year because it floods, it's low. But one of the things that saved us and helped our family to build was, unbeknownst to anyone, that allotment land was mineral rich. And as the good Lord would have it, even though we weren't treated fairly all the time, we had money because there was oil, there was gas on that land, significant portions, okay? So that also created some tensions, okay, between the full-blood natives and us. Let me circle back around right quick because I want to get back to that part about the judgment fund and the casinos and all the bad blood and how we can't seem to get jobs with the tribes and all this stuff. My auntie sat in her living room and cried because they treated us so horribly. And I asked her, why are you crying? And she said, Ann, we've always been a giving people. We gave. people would come, the natives, the full blood would come to us. They didn't have anything to eat. We gave them a cow because we had plenty. Just to give you a picture of that, I-40 near exit 200, where the Love Station is and the casinos are, at one time that was my great uncle Haywood's pasture land because they raised cattle. My great grandmother Fanny had a sister named Nancy. These are children of Abraham through Rachael. Nancy just so happened to marry Caesar Bruner. Okay, Caesar Bruner made his living as a cattle rancher, a very successful cattle rancher, I might add. So we had things. My auntie cried and she said, you know, when things were hard, we were coming up, and especially during the Depression, and folks didn't have a lot, we still gave and we treated them well. And sometimes we'd even let them stay with us. And now they treat us like this. She had lived that. Okay. And it affected her enough that she cried about it. So when we start talking about history of the hostilities, the background, they're there. Okay. I think, no, I know better than think there needs to be a change. Yeah, we've had some problems in the past. We need to mend that because our true ancestors, they wouldn't want that. If Osceola was married to a Black woman at one time, one of his wives, hey, I really think he'd be a little bit upset right now behind everything that has been going on. And like I have come to understand, it wasn't always that way, but it was because of intermarried relationships that this became, the hate became learned behaviors. Learned behaviors. And just like we've mentioned before, we need to continue letting Congress know and continue our negotiations, because you can't, by federal law, justify receiving federal funds and discriminate against us within the tribe. That's illegal all the way around. There's no way. So that needs to come to an end. Also, if you are an enrolled member of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, and you belong to one of either the Caesar Bruner band and what's the I can't think of the other band right now, but if you belong to the two primarily Dorsey Barker's bands, and if you haven't gone to the Indian Healthcare Clinic and enrolled, please go do so. Even if you don't, you know, you're in a position where you may not need it, you need to go do that, because that's something that's available. It's an option. If you are not enrolled, let's work on getting you enrolled. I was in a conversation the other day, and someone told me that they told me I couldn't be Seminole because I didn't belong to a band or to a clan. I said, well, you know what? We get you enrolled, we'll get you assigned to one, because I guarantee you, your ancestors, someone in your family tree belonged to one. Okay. All right. Let's see here. I took a few notes because I wanted to make sure that I touched on a few things here. Does anyone have any questions? And I'm going to ask if you could just ask it directly, or Wendy, if you could let me know what that question is. I hope I can share it.
Will do. Yeah, and if you don't want to speak,
Yeah,
you can definitely type in the chat.
Okay. Go ahead, brother.
Oh, yeah, you prefer to chat?
Because Alani, you can talk. No.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean to interrupt. Hey, Ann, how's it going?
Hey, man.
So, question. Are you saying related to Morning Dew? That's Osceola's Black Life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And from my perspective in the family, from what my mother shared with me and made me promise never to forget, that she was my cousin. Now, that may be different from someone else in the family, you know, because I've noticed that when I'm looking over family tree stuff and the one that was put together, there's some mistakes in there as far as who should be who and whatnot. So you just have to, you know, go with that, with your oral history and, you know, what you know, and just go from there. You know, but yes, that's straight facts. So yeah.
Wow.
A lot to take in, a lot to learn, you know, but racism and hate is an ugly thing, you know.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Preaching to the converted here.
But, you know, agree to what you said on paper, you know, and then you're not following federal law anyway. If federal law says you lose your federal funding, you know. So there's been some hard conversations held and are still being held because there's still a happy medium that's trying to be met. Some of the opposition says, well, you know, you guys haven't held up your end. You know, you haven't agreed to your treaties, to our treaties that we signed. You know, and that's, you know, there's a lot of bad stuff there. But I guarantee you yank that federal funding, the whole story, things gonna change.
Can you back up a minute? There's some of them are saying our relatives haven't stood up to the treaties. Are they serious? I mean, they're not even looking at the history.
Well, that's what some people say, and you know, it's not us that's saying it, okay?
Oh yeah, that's not. Yeah, I know that. I'm finding that incredulous because obviously they don't know the history.
Right, they don't know.
Or so they're just in total denial. I mean, that's beyond ridiculous.
They don't know the history.
And I'm trying to keep my language civil now because this is so out to lunch.
Yeah, but that's the truth. That's what we've had to live here, right here in Indian Territory. They don't know the history, and that's another thing. You know, our cemeteries, our properties. You know, if you've lost your property, I guarantee you probably still own the mineral rights. So you need to check around and see if you have any mineral rights that's coming your way because they're saved at the state treasurer's office. Go get your money. But yeah, that's it. We're losing a lot. The place where we used to meet at, our little church, is now middle of a highway. Gentrification at its finest, okay? Our cemeteries, I try to take good care of faith, okay? There's a lot of criminal activity that's been going on at some of our cemeteries. Some of it, unfortunately, you know, it's been going on for decades. But we have to be mindful and protective of our properties, you know. Oklahoma State Statute Title 8 protects the cemeteries. We've got history that's in real danger of being lost with our cemeteries. And I met with some folks at the Oklahoma State Historic Preservation Office. I've got some projects that I'm working on with some deadlines that are coming up real quick so we can get those properties on the schedule for the next meeting next month. So they could review that, and after that, they'll ship it. They'll work with the U.S. Park Service, and we'll try to get those properties officially listed as protected sites. Some of them already are, let me say that. But there are some that are in serious danger. There's, as a matter of fact, there's one in particular where we need to look at the possibility of getting some court orders, and I want to wait till the feds get involved, but getting some court orders so we could have some remains exhumed because they're not safe where they are, and they are such a significant value to our history that should not be a problem with them getting moved. But we have to save our history. And when our children and grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren don't know, or I've even had one relative tell me, you know, I heard the stories about how we fought the U.S. Army, guerrilla warfare, and we won, but I always thought Uncle was exaggerating. That's no, baby. That's the truth. That's how we got here to Indian Territory as free people. Not like the other tribes. We came here as free people of color. And if you look at the census of 1860 for U.S. Arkansas lands west Seminole County, that's how it's listed. It's not listed as U.S. Census. It's listed as Census of 1860 U.S. Arkansas West Seminole County. If you look under the name of Payne, 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 you're going to find Abraham. Now, let me press pause and explain. Not only are you going to find Abraham, you're going to find the rest of my direct relatives. My great-great-grandmother, my great-great-aunt, all these folks, you're going to find them listed on that census of 1860. Because at that time, Abraham was going in the last name of Payne, Payne, after the Emancipation Proclamation. Abraham decided, well, I helped to free my people also. I'm going to change my last name to Lincoln. and he took the name Abraham Lincoln. Okay. So when you look at my great-great-grandmother, her name is Fanny Lincoln Fay, F-A-Y. Or let me correct that. Fanny Payne Lincoln Fay. When you look at the census records, that's what you're going to find her under, Fanny Lincoln. Okay, was married to a guy by the name of Curly Lincoln. If you look on the back of the census card, you're also going to find, and it lists her as being free. Those people who were listed on that 1860 listing, they're going to be listed as free people on the concurrent censuses. So if you look on the back of the census card, you may find someone else down the line is going to say they were a slave of Chief Bowlegs. Let me press pause. A lot of our Bowlegs family are buried at the Scipio Cemetery, which is just north of Wewoka. Let me show you some pictures of Scipio. Back in December of 2020, I was in Seminole County at the sheriff's office with an archaeologist by the name of Paul Martin, and he was doing a Paul S. Martin out of Tennessee, Martin Archaeology. He was doing a training and had brought in canines and search and rescue personnel from across the country. For those of you who may not be familiar, don't have a law enforcement background, don't know anything about what I'm trying to say, why would you be using dogs? Canines or dogs can detect, have been trained to find people and detect human remains. Okay. At that time, we went to Scipio, we went to Mount Zion or the Bruner Family Cemetery, and we went to the Fay Cemetery. And we plotted out places where there were human remains with no headstones. Now, let me remind you of this. Back then, when people were buried, they weren't buried like they are today, typically. Now, it still happens, because I've been to a few where the casket was just thrown in the ground. But typically, when people bury people today, they put them in a vault. Okay, whatever that vault is made out of, they put them in the vault. But you got to remember, back during that time period, bodies were thrown in the ground. And they were fortunate if they had a wooden casket. There were a lot that didn't. Okay, so these dogs are specially trained to sniff out human remains. Okay, so that's something you may want to know, where I don't know where a lot of you guys may be. Reach out to your search and rescue personnel in your county, in your state. Try to establish a relationship, because they always need some place to train. And if you guys could team up, if there are some places in your cemetery that you think there may be a grave there, okay, or maybe the grave, just like with Faith. And that's another reason, another sore spot with me too. A lot of times our cemeteries, even though they're independent and we protect them, there may be a neighbor next door that has cattle. There are several tombstones at the Faith Cemetery that have either been destroyed partially or all together destroyed, because the cattle that was allowed to free range, and let me rephrase that. The cattle that was not allowed to free range, but ended up trespassing, okay, on someone else's property, destroyed those tombstones. Okay, I've got a cousin right now. I'm gonna have to buy him another tombstone. He was right next to my grandmother, and all my life, I grew up looking at his tombstone, and I remember it because he had a very peculiar name. When I went back down there a couple of years ago, his tombstone was gone. When I walked around to another section of Faye, I saw that one of the older tombstones had been damaged. Okay, so we have to be mindful and careful of our cemeteries. Now, in the state of Oklahoma, I don't know what the Texas law says, but cemeteries are protected under Title 8 in the state of Oklahoma, and each state has their own laws regulating cemeteries. I suggest that you take the time and you Google and you try to find out and familiarize yourself with those laws, because in a lot of different situations, and I'm working on pulling up Scipio here so you guys can see it. In a lot of different situations, you've got counties who are responsible, county commissioners rather, who are responsible for the care of those cemeteries, and you can contact them and see. I first suggest that you look up the statute first and read the language, okay, and get a good understanding of the language. But I know in Oklahoma there's a few loopholes there, and there are ways you can hold some people responsible. This is Scipio right here back in December of 2020. Okay, this is what I call, you see the little stone there, that's what I call a poor man's mausoleum. Okay, because that's a little mausoleum that's protecting graves. It's not very big, it's not a full house style of mausoleum, but it's a protectorate. And buried here in this section, there are 3 graves. Rebecca Grayson, who was born in Mexico. I'm going to talk about her a little bit further here. John Fay, who's listed on the Seminole Nation roll as by blood. I showed you his picture earlier. And Wellington Bruner. If you want to have an interesting read, Google the name Wellington Bruner. That's John's brother, okay, half brother. I don't know where Betty is, because he had a sister named Betty. I don't know. I just can't recall where she may be in the vicinity somewhere. But those are the people who are at Scipio. Scipio is in horrible condition. A lot of the Bowlegs are buried at Scipio. Okay. The Sanchos, my uncle's dad, is buried at Scipio. His grave is, a tree has grown into his grave, and he's now part of a tree. But we have to be more cognizant and protective of our grave sites, because these are our people. One story about Scipio is that when we were down there in December of 2020, the property owner allowed us to come. And by state statute, the family has right of access. Okay, so the property owner can't tell you, no, you can't come. But they work with us. They're very nice people. But we noticed when we were there, I don't know if I took a picture of that or not, or if I have it on here because I had to transfer some stuff out. I'm just going to show you this. This is part of the sidewall of Scipio. Okay, that's just part of the outer portion of it. But if you go south of where this picture is, we took a team down there, me and Paul Martin and his crew. They studied that area. It kind of went off into a cliff, and they studied the laying of the land. And they were able to determine by that and some other, they have some technology that they use, that at one time there are graves there, but that the headstones had been removed. So it looked to them like a farmer, probably years ago, and it's before this current owner. Some farmer at some time decided that he wanted to use the land and was going to take part of the cemetery, and did just that. So that's another reason why we need to be very careful of our cemeteries. Let me go on a little bit here, because I want to share some information on our cemeteries, because that's kind of what my passion is as well. We have several cemeteries that are related to us here in Oklahoma, and they're all across the place. And it may surprise some people. Like I said earlier, I have relatives buried at the Maupin Cemetery just outside Conowall. Okay. So I was talking to one person, and they were like, well, that's a native or white cemetery. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. We got some color off in there as well. Some of the cemeteries that I have encountered personally has been the James Cemetery in Murray County, Oklahoma. I did a service down there. There are a lot of Bruners down there. And let me say this, that same James family intermarried into our family here, more specifically, my family. So there was a James that married a Nancy J. There were several Nancys, okay? So there was a second Nancy that was married to a Bruner cousin. I don't have all that information in front of me right now, but she's buried at the Mount Zion Bruner family cemetery, which is located in Turkey Creek, a little. Now, let me share this. This is one reason why we really need to stay concerned about our family, okay? Because we're slowly being written out of history, and we're becoming, as Ralph Ellison would say, we're becoming invisible men. You don't want that to happen. We need to protect those sites. They are important. I just lost my train of thought. When you get over 50 and you start getting towards 60, if you haven't already, that's gonna happen. It'll come back to me soon. But anyway, I hooked up with Paul back in December. They have, for those of you who are concerned about your cemetery, they have thermal imaging equipment also that can detect where graves are, okay? So I encourage each of you to hook up with a search and rescue team, organization, Google them, see if you can find one. See, I told you to come back, what I was looking for. And hook up with them. They a lot of times they don't mind helping you because they want to train their dogs, okay? Don't be upset about a dog going into the cemetery, because if it's doing that, it's probably working. They can help us out quite a bit, you know, especially when it comes to the identification of grave sites. But back to what I was going to say about cemeteries. If you go to find a grave, I'm the one that put a lot of the descriptors on there for Seminole County, but if you go to find a grave, under the Faith Cemetery, you're going to find a listing of about 12 or 14 related cemeteries that I put on there where we have family at. Some of those cemeteries are inclusive of Thomastown, which is okay. It's in decent shape from what I've learned. You got Middle Creek, which they the Barkers Cemetery Association, those are Barkers folks. They've been able to get a grant because there is grant money out there available. If you set your organization up, you need to be real careful with that though. There's grant money available that you can get to help you restore your cemeteries and whatnot. And let me piggyback on that when I said you have to be real careful. My mother set up our cemetery association in the early 1970s. My mother passed away suddenly in 1980. We had a considerable bank account. Their money disappeared, okay? So you need to be careful, all right? If you're gonna set something up, unless you're gonna pay for everything out of pocket, you know, and you're gonna try to apply for grant money, you know, grants are very stringent. There's certain rules you gotta follow. If you're gonna open a bank account up and put money in there, you need to follow those rules or you can end up in the slammer, okay? And I don't think anyone wants to go to jail. I damn sure ain't going to jail. So, but just know that there's funding available to assist you if you want to go about setting up your cemetery associations. In the state of Oklahoma, it requires you to meet so many times a year, whether that's a virtual meeting or once a year, 4 times, however you want to do it. But you have to meet a few times a year, even if it's, you know, just conversations, just to say you've had a, you know, for you to establish a meeting, okay? And that's if you're going to be applying for funding and stuff like that. So, and you can accept certain amount of monies up to a certain dollar amount, but you need to be careful. But I tell everyone this working in the association platform that has money, you need to make sure that your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Let's see here. Look at my notes. I jotted down a few notes. So
Miss
let me
Ann,
share. Oh, go
I do
ahead.
have a question. I would love for you to talk about your journey when you were a child from what you remember from Oklahoma to Brackett. Do you remember any sights, sounds? Did y'all pack with food? Did y'all stop at restaurants? Like, do you remember any of that?
I can tell you what I remember. There was a guy that wore a cowboy hat all the time, and he took a real affinity to me. Okay. And I really think that was Doug. He was around me all the time. And I remember one night we went into Mexico, and I was just happy. I mean, I was happy because I'm a kid. I'm out in my mind's eye, I'm out the country. Hey, I'm the coolest kid there is. I'm out of the United States. I'm having a good time. With my cowboy boot wearing self. That's a whole nother story. I've always worn cowboy boots. I get ribbed about that a lot. But anyway, we went to a nighttime event, and it was a party. And everyone it was night, and they had the lights and lanterns burning and all that stuff. And they had dug a pit in the ground. Okay. And they had this, I had never seen anything like that. They had dug a pit, and there was a pig that was roasting that had an apple in his mouth. I remember that. They had roasted a pig. And they had also cooked a goat and barbecued it. Okay. So the guy who always wore the cowboy hat that had the affinity, he brought me some goat. And I'm like, I ate it, had barbecue sauce on it. It was real good. I said, man, can I have some more chicken? And he started laughing. He said, baby, that's not chicken, that's goat. And I said, it's goat. So I was outdone, but it was good. I wanted some more. But I remember that the nighttime event, that has stuck with me. I also remember, because you guys don't know anything about me, but I've always been a somewhat of a handful. It is what it is. So I remember when we were coming back across the border, and we were parked in line, and my mother had a blue Chevy Impala 4-door. And I'm not gonna share everything because there's another project that I'm working on. I share all this. But we were trying to get back across the border, and while we were in line, it was me, my mother, her sister, and the guy that just died last week. And Mama looked in the rearview mirror, and she said, Ann, when we get up here close, don't you say shit. Don't you say nothing. Do you understand me, little girl? You need to be quiet. Don't you say a word. And you sit back and you play with that. I had a little souvenir. It was a doll that had a sombrero hat, and it had a little vest on it. And I may have brought that across the border with me for the first time, but she said, you sit back there, you play with that doll. Because if you guys had known me, I've always been kind of curious and mouthy. And she gave me that look, I'm gonna slap you into the trunk if you say one word to these people when we're trying to get through. And then I got scared. I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna, if I say something, I'm not gonna be able to get back across the border. And we made it through. One thing I will share, at some point during our time there, and I remember going to the cemetery for the little ceremony that they had. But at some point during our time there, I looked up, and there was my dad driving down the street. And I was like, oh my God, he had brought, and I remember something I need to go back to that I had mentioned earlier. He had brought this man right here. And let me tell you a little bit more about this man. This is the man that's listed on by blood roll, John Fay. And let me say this, there are a lot of John Fays out there, guys. Sometimes our names get duplicated. So I got a lot of John Fays, more than one. I got a lot of Rosa Fays, Rosa Alexander Fay, who was from Brackett, that was married to my Uncle Hayward. Okay, her people are Shields. All right. Her name is Rosa Alexander Fay, and she married Hayward Fay. if you look at his census record, I mean, his mother is buried at Scipio, and along with him. He's in this picture here. His mother, Rebecca Grayson. Family oral history always said that she was born in Mexico. If you pull up her records, it's going to say that she was born in Indian Territory. Now, let me explain. Years ago, I went to the courthouse and I pulled up some documents on John Fay that they were in the basement, so they weren't in the regular section. You had to dig a little further because they were from back long time ago. And he had filed an affidavit. And on his affidavit, and I think I mentioned this to you earlier. Let me pause so I can explain what I'm trying to say. When you're doing your historical research, when you're doing your genealogy, you can't just depend on census records. Okay? You really, if you're that serious, you need to go to where that person lived at. Okay? Back when I first started learning about genealogy and doing stuff at the Ralph Ellison Library, stuff was on microfilm, stuff wasn't digitized. And in a lot of cases, we had to go to the Oklahoma Historical Society, not when it was on 23rd, but when it was on 21st, okay? You had to go there and you had to hope that someone was nice to you so they could assist you and pull the records that you need. But a lot of things are digitized now. But if you look at his mother's records, it's going to say she was born in Indian Territory. Now, the reason why I pressed the pause there is you have to go back to what was happening in the history of that time. And I'm going to bring you up to date with this. If you saw the Paramount series, Bass Reeves, in the first episode, they pictured a little community called Turkey Creek. That was probably one of the realest things about that whole series because that community existed. Okay, it was a community where you had Black Seminoles who had made money, whether it was from cattle or whether it was from the mineral rights that they had. Okay, they had made money. They developed their own little communities. They had stores. They had schools, and this was before Rosenwald schools came along. They had their own community. They had churches. They did their own thing. Okay, so yes, there was a community called Turkey Creek. The only thing you're going to see about Turkey Creek anywhere now on the map is a little river. It's a little creek called Turkey Creek because there's something else that has disappeared. It's become invisible. Invisible man. We become invisible. So we're not there anymore, but that was there. John Fay, this guy right here that I'm talking about, his mother was actually born in Mexico. Okay. In the affidavit that he has put together that's on file at the courthouse and through our family oral tradition, he talks about that. And this is where you have to know your history. If it had gotten out that anyone had left the Seminole Nation or Indian Territory and it had gotten out, guess what would have happened? They would have lost all claims to anything, land, any land allotments, or anything, okay, coming from the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. They would have lost that. So what you had was you had family members who had other family members that left with John Horse and ended up in Brackett and Nacimiento. You still had family members that would go visit and come back or go live and come back, okay? Also, if you're looking at your census records, you need to be taking into consideration those people who are listed as boarders or in the household, because sometimes those are relatives, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're close family friends, people that they kind of adopted in. For example, you're going to find some Carolinas who were cousins. You're going to find some islands, I-S-L-A-N-D, okay? Some of those were cousins. Some of those were just people who, you know, were just staying with people for a while because, like I said, they were kind enough to let people stay, you know, get on their feet, passing through because it was a community. Turkey Creek. That's where all the colored folks come. That's where everyone did their trade. Okay. And they were self-sufficient. So back to we call them, and that's the other thing I mentioned to you the other day. We have a lot of nicknames in our family. I have people that I've been calling by their nickname for over 50 years and just now recently learned what their real names were. So, you know, you may have somebody, just like in the case of John Fay, we called him Cousin John. If we were saying it fast, it came out Cousin John. Cousin John this, Cousin John that. Cousin John just happened to luck out. The property that he received on his allotment was oil rich, very oil rich, very, very oil rich. And to this day, there are certain members of our family who are his heirs who get a sufficient monthly check, you know, enough to buy groceries on and do a little extra, okay? And it's kind of like, it's been like that for years. So you have to you know, just kind of, if you don't know these things, it's going to trip you up when you start doing your genealogy. At the time of his death, and I was looking at over his assets in the court records, in today's times, he would have been considered a multimillionaire. But he passed away in 1981, and he had significant holdings and still has significant holdings. And let me say this. If by some reason you lost your property or you still are a property owner, whatever you do, if you decide to sell it, whatever, because things happen, whatever you do, never sell your mineral rights. That's a trick. Okay. I don't care if it's bringing in 2 cents a year, because 2 years from now, I may be bringing in 4,000 a month. You never know. Okay. But that's something that our family has a history of doing, is selling their mineral rights off. Don't do that. Keep your mineral rights, if nothing else. Also, if you got a family member that has, and this is happening nationwide, where our families are losing across the nation. We're losing our land because we got one cousin that decided they want to sell their part. Stuff that's heirs property, stuff that's never been divided. Okay, that's an issue. It's hard to salvage a title from heirs property, and then each state is different. There's some organizations out there that can help you, but at the same time, you know, if you're able and you're able to fight it in court, try to fight it as long as you can. But you know what? At some point, you're gonna have to give in. You know, so if a property ever gets fractured, it's hard to get it back. It's hard to get it back, and that happens a lot. Like I said, because you got cousins so and so. Oh, I'm in a bad way, and I need to do this so I can save my house, and they end up, you know, selling all the other cousins, or other heirs out, and end up losing their house anyway. Now you done lost the house and grandma's land. You know, so you know there's a saying out there floating around: never sell grandma's house, never sell grandma's property. They don't make that stuff anymore. This is stuff that we were able to build our fortunes off of and sustain our families off of. So for the most part now, unfortunately, a lot of what we once had has been limited down to the protection of our cemeteries. And definitely, I don't care where you are, if you have a cemetery, look into what your state laws are, make sure they're protected. Reach out to your state historic preservation office, see what you need to do to get those properties listed with the U.S. Park Service and with the state as being historical sites. Because at this stage in time, you know, we're in 2024, all that stuff is history. So they're all eligible. So have someone in your family sit down and do the paperwork, you know. So protect the history, or just like Ralph Ellison said, it's going to become invisible. It's going to disappear. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I've got another question, and maybe you can clarify something for me. I was under the impression, this is going back to the 19th century. I was under the impression, and I don't remember where I saw this in the course of my research, that people had to be back by 1866 before they lost that property. Is this something, am I really recalling that right, or do you know anything about that?
I'm not sure what the timelines are on this, but let me explain something that I do know, and have studied just over time. There's a book out on the Dawes Commission. I've got a copy of it. I just don't have it handy. Excellent book. Or just do your research on how Dawes acted, because Dawes was not designed with us in mind. I'm sure we all know this. And some of the things that they would do were unethical, were immoral. The $5 Indian, slip $5 on the table, put me on the roll. I ain't never been Indian, but I'm an Indian right now because I gave the Dawes agent $5. And now he wrote my name on the roll. For a lot of Europeans were able to get on the roll that way. What I do know, like I said, is that a lot of times when the commission would come to an area, they'd host these parties the night before. Free food, they'd encourage people to come around. Free food, we got liquor at a discount, or we give it to you free, yada, 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 yada. But you better be in line by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. But y'all have fun tonight. So people, you know how we do. Woo, we done drove all this time, horse and wagon. Well, let's let our hair down. Let's party. Maybe I can go meet a guy, meet a girl or something. Okay, everybody go party all night long, get drunk, wake up. Oh man, I get 9 minutes to get to the commission office so I could get signed up. If you weren't there by 8 o'clock and you got there at 8:01, guess what happened? You missed out. My great grandfather on my dad's side, full-blood Cherokee Indian. Back during that time when they were signing people up, no matter where you were at, the rule was you had to come to Indian Territory to get signed up. Okay? He came and signed up for the 1896 roll. You'll find him on the 1896 roll, but the 1896 roll got thrown out. Okay? Because they said there were too many trespassers on there. We can't, this is not a good roll. Let's do this again. Okay. And that actually happened. So they did that. He didn't come back the second time. Okay.
Well, let's face it, the Dawes Commission, and I've said this before, just an exercise in ethnic cleansing. And yeah, quote me on that.
Exactly. That's what it was. And I'm going to tell you something. When I used to pastor a church, an AME church in Ardmore, Oklahoma, and I met a family there. They were members of my church, and they were Cherokee. And we were talking. Let me press pause, because I can't say anything about Ardmore without bringing up the communities. And I'm going back to our cemeteries again. In southeastern Oklahoma, there used to be a community called ARK, A-R-K. It was a community of Blacks and a community of Natives. There's a cemetery there. There's land there that belonged to the AME church. I tried talking to them about it. It's got oil on it. They get a big check waiting on them. If they ever try to go get it, this money's there. But it has to be through the district. But there are grave sites there. Cemetery. I met with a guy by the name of David Bond Oil. And we talked about, he invited me to his home. We talked about some stuff. I shared some history with there. But basically, it's another Scipio. It's a cemetery that's been neglected. I've got personal relatives buried there. But yeah, we've got all kinds of stuff. But let me get back to the family at my church. They were Cherokee. And, I looked at the pictures. I looked at the lineage stuff that they had. Yeah, they're Cherokee. Unfortunately, they had filed for membership in the Cherokee Nation, and they were denied. Because they weren't regular Cherokees, they were Eastern Cherokees, okay? The point I'm trying to make is there were more Indian tribes, there were more Native tribes than just the 5 civilized tribes, okay? So when you're doing your research and someone says, well, grandma was Cherokee, and you got a picture of them, yeah, she's definitely, Native American. What tribe was she a member of, though? Was she regular Cherokee, or was she Eastern Cherokee? Or there's so many others. I used to work with a guy whose family was from New York. And you could see his Native American heritage, dark-skinned brother, you could see him. But his family's tribe was from upper state New York. I can't think of the name of it. But yeah, there's more than one tribe here on the North American continent. One of the books that I have in my library, and it's something that you should be looking at if you haven't already read it. They came before Columbus, okay? at some point we have to come to realize that everything we have been taught may not be so. And you have to do your own schools, teach your children, you know, a little bit more about history and race. Another book that I have in my library is Cass. Excellent book. Excellent book. I suggest everyone reads this because it will give you, if you didn't know, how the Nazis studied American race issues while they were preparing to put their program together. Okay. So yeah.
Can I bring up something else regarding that? I don't remember specifically the general, but a Nazi general said after the war, if we would have studied the Seminole War, we would have known how to deal with the Russians.
And I'm glad you brought that up because it was one of the first occasions of guerrilla warfare, you know, because we came at them from every angle because we had a lot on the line. Yeah, we had left, we had escaped, we had intermarried, we were doing good. Okay, we had our own cities, our own towns rather. Abraham's town. We were doing things on our own. We were able to provide for ourselves, and you were going to take that from us, and then you were going to put us back in slavery. So we had to fight, and we fought with everything that we had, you know. And you had to look at the style of warfare they were doing back then. You know, you had people walking in columns. Come on, man. You gonna get
hot wool
everybody
uniforms in Florida. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, so we did that guerrilla warfare, you know, same tactics that the NVA used during Vietnam. You know, they coming at you from all sides and from everywhere, all at once, and then bam, you know. So yeah. That's one of the reasons why we won. But the fighting was so fierce was because we were fighting to remain free. You know? Yeah. We're fighting to remain free.
I don't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to clarify on that 1866 for Lonnie. Yes, you only had 1 year to return, and we didn't return. There's only 2 documented instances when the John Horse Band returned into Oklahoma. It was one right as we became Indian Scouts in 1870. It's documented. You can read the letter. And then the second instance is in 1890s. In the 1890s, when David Bowlegs, the Brunos, and the Gordons all took family members back and they stayed into Indian territory. All of that is after 1867. So that 1866 treaty did not apply to the John Horse folks that were in Mexico and Texas. Just wanted to clarify that.
Appreciate it.
And let me say this. Thanks, Denise. Let me say this. You know, some of our family oral histories, like I said, people came in and out all the time. You know, so, but they couldn't let, you know, the authorities know they were coming in and out because, you know, there was stuff that they'd get denied, you know, if it got out that they had left to begin with, you know, so. Let me look at my library. Oh, I think some of the things that I'm reading, one of the books that I'm reading, and I do this every year because I like to remind myself of history. I'm reading the Commission on the Tulsa Race Riot. That's something I'm actively reading right now. But this time of year, I always try to go back in June. I always try to delve into the race massacre. This is a thin book. This is what's in my library. I've read it. It's like 23 pages. Says the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921, an eyewitness account by Buck Colbert Franklin. Okay. I've got some Franklin cousins. Hey, on my dad's side, and then on my mom's side. And this is Buck's autobiography, My Life in an Era, the autobiography of Buck Colbert Franklin. If you're not familiar with him, he's the attorney that was on Greenwood, and he ended up setting his practice up in a tent and stayed, and he tried to help the people get some type of resolution from the insurance companies. Again, I think I showed this earlier because I like to bring about reminders, especially this time of year. This is called Unspeakable. It's a children's book. It's an award-winning book. Unspeakable, The Tulsa Race Massacre is by Carol Boston Weatherford and Floyd Cooper. And it's an award-winning, I think it's a Caldecott. Yes, a Caldecott book, and it's got another award, 2 other awards as well. And this other one, I haven't read it yet. Again, these are books that are in my library. Some of them I've read, some of them I haven't. Don't Let Them Bury My Story. Okay, you may have seen this one. It's a Viola Ford Fletcher, Mother Fletcher. You know, there was just a recent ruling on whether or not they should receive compensation from the state of Oklahoma. And she's the oldest living survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre. This book is in her own words. I just recommend everyone. I like to stay up on stuff, current events.
Oh, and let me add something real quick.
Yes.
Buck Colbert, some of his descendants helped founded the Caribbean Cultural Center African Diaspora Institute here in New York City.
Okay, I got a cousin, Maurice. This, and they're related on my dad's side.
Okay,
Maurice is up there. Yeah, Professor Dr. Franklin. Yeah, he's cousin of mine. So yeah,
okay.
His mom is still here in I always like to refer to Oklahoma as Indian Territory. You may see my shirt. I got a little pissed off when I was starting the organization. I mean the page, the group. And when I got back to Oklahoma City from down south, I had these shirts made, and I got a cousin that's a wonderful artist in Florida. And we had talked about getting some more shirts put to press, because I just went online and ordered this. But I just wanted people to know that no, the Black Seminoles are not dead. We're still here. And it says Free Black Seminole Indian Territory, and it's got Oklahoma on top of it. And I wasn't selling them or anything. I got a couple of hats, but it was just so I could wear out and about and let people know, because I hate it when people tell me I'm dead and I'm not dead yet, or that I don't know.
Yeah, I've encountered that.
Yeah. Don't. And I really have to control myself. It's kind of like I gotta, what's this guy's name?
Yeah, I don't have bail money either.
Yeah. You know, I throw hands. Try Jesus, not me. I throw hands.
Oh, Toby and Gwingware, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the other things, I'm a Nubian, so I'm on Nubian narrative by Greg Carr, Dr. Greg Carr, Professor Karen Hunter. Shout out to them. I'm a graduate of an HBCU. All right, Langston University. Shout out to Dr. Alex Lewis. Amen. He says, Miss Ali, you are the oldest student in the graduate program. You've been in since before Jesus was born. I'm like, Doctor, don't do me like that. But anyway, so good guy. I had strong instructors like that. So any other comment? Let me see what else do I have here. Recommended reading. I'm reading this one, Black AF History. It's funny.
Yeah, I just heard about that on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. This is one I recommend. I read this when I was going to France, and I read this on the way. I had already started reading it before I left. It's called Death of Innocence, the story of the hate crime that changed America. It's by Mamie Mobley Till. It's been out a while. Mamie Mobley Till, which is Emmett Till's mother, and she was an educator as well. Excellent book. It really opened my eyes to a lot of things, because I've spent a lot of time in Mississippi around money, and it just opened my eyes to a lot of things. The Town of Money. Here's another book, Art Burton. What is it? Black, Red, and Deadly.
Anything Art writes, you should check out.
Yeah.
Anything Art writes, you should check out. Period.
Yeah, anything by Art. And here's another brother that's really coming into do now. Dr. Daniel Black. Dr. Daniel Black, Black on Black on Black. This is Black on Black. He does a lot of, he's done some fiction, and he's also done some nonfiction. Let me move my hand. Dr. Daniel Black, something you should add to your library. This one is really helping me a lot. Anyone that has lost a loved one, Medgar and Merle. Okay.
Oh.
Joy Ann Reed, and Merle talks about her relationship with Medgar, and it's a good book. I'm reading it. It's not on my, I'm reading it in bits and pieces. She talks about how she made it up in her mind that after her husband died, that she was gonna go on and learn to love again. And so it's an excellent book. I suggest you read it. I'm gonna throw this one out here always, because I actively, I listen to Sirius a lot. And some of the shows I listen to. If you haven't gotten this one yet, you know, Grift, Brother Clay Kane, you know, check it out. The Downward Spiral of Black Republicans, from the Party of Lincoln to the Cult of Trump. Excellent read. It gives you a lot of history, because we used to belong to the Republican Party back in the day. Under the auspices of FDR, that a lot of us came out of that, and having come from parents of the Depression, I understand why. Chicken in every pot. And last but not least, I think it's last, this is my man. He passed away. We lost him this year. Joe Madison. This is his autobiography, Radioactive. The book's just in my library. I've read it. I've listened to it. A lot of times I'm so busy that I'll do the audiobook. And if it really is interesting, I will go back and buy the book. And even though after I've listened to the audiobook, I'll just go back and I'll go in and I'll highlight it and whatnot. But
and I might be preaching to the converted, but do you have Jack Forbes? Anything but Jack Forbes?
No, I don't think I do. I may be wrong. I don't. Give me a title. Give me a title.
Okay, African Native Americans, the language of race and the evolution of red black peoples. But anything Jack Forbes writes, you should check out. Okay,
I'll do that. And I didn't pull out the Black Seminole books, because there's a whole bunch of them, and I got just about.
Oh yeah.
I didn't pull them out, you know, because I wanted this to be more of a fireside type chat situation, because there's a lot of information that's out there, and thank you. And I need to be reminded of that. Thank you, Denise, too. There's a lot of information that's out there that's wrong. That, you know, and as an educator, let me say this. I appreciate the passion that people have to learn about the Black Seminoles. I appreciate the passion. But if I take what you just put out on your video, or if I take what you just wrote out in your book, and if I were to give you an exam based on that information that you just wrote, or you did a documentary about, you'd fail, because the information is wrong. It's not saying that I don't appreciate the attention that you've helped bring to the subject, because I really do. But the important thing is we need to get the correct information out there. And that's you know, once again, that's what caused me to form the group, because someone had put out there that we were dead and we didn't know who we were. And I'm going around making all this money and doing all these tours, all this stuff. I spoke here, I spoke there, I'm this, I'm that. You won't even take a DNA test. Prove it. You know? So, you know, that's just it. You go around, you lying, you calling people's family, asking them questions, and then you putting yourself in the middle of the story, and you wasn't even there. Come on, man. So I said enough's enough. It's time for us. And let me add on this. One, I am descended of Abraham, direct descendant between Abraham and Rachael. These are questions that I asked coming up as a kid, and so I was given the lineage directly. But there's an offshoot, and there are cousins. One of Abraham's grandsons had a family with a woman, and she gave those people the last name of Abraham to tie them back to Abraham. Okay, those are cousins. Okay, those are not my direct. They're not direct in the lineage that I'm specifically coming from. I don't want to use the word legitimate or illegitimate, because we're gonna get it. I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm just trying to paint the picture so you can understand what has happened. I am the youngest. I'm not the only one. I want to make that clear, because there's a bunch of them before me and a whole bunch of them after me, but I am his youngest third great grandchild. That would be me. That's me, because my parents had too much time on their hands, and then 9 months later, here I come. Okay. All right. They ended up with an empty nest. They had too much time on their hands. Both of them were old. One was 59 going on 60. One was 46. Thought she was going through the chain. Had too much time. And next thing you know, that ain't no tumor. That's a baby. Now you 46 years old, you 59 years old, you getting ready to bring a child into the world. Okay, that's how I got here. But thank God I got here. In my right mind. That might be debatable among some of my friends and supervisors. But I am in my right mind. So I am the youngest of his third great grandchildren. There are the fourth generation. There's a fifth generation. There's a sixth generation. We are descended, and I'm not really concerned about anyone else that he had children with. We are descended between he and Rachael, because he had more than one wife. But from him and Rachael, that's how we got here. Let me show you a picture. So with him and Rachael, there were 4 children. You've got Nancy, okay, who ended up marrying Caesar Bruner. Okay, you got my great-great-grandmother, Fanny Payne Lincoln Faye, who got the Faye clan going. Some of them Fays down there in Brackettsville and Nacimiento, the same family. Okay, we cousins. You got I think it's what, Washington? Walter, I'm sorry, it's Walter. Let's see. I'm missing somebody. I can't think of it. There were 4, and Molly, who ended up going to Texas. Okay. So let me pull this picture up so you'll know. Right here. And you can look at the photos and you can see, hey, there's strong genes here. Okay. This right here is a picture of Abraham. You see those 2 pictures of him. One is a bust. And the other is a picture I'm sure you've seen before, the woman in the lower right-hand corner. That's my great-great-grandmother, Fanny. There is no doubt that those folks ain't related. You can see the genes, you see the strong genes, jaw lines, all that stuff. So, and then they're listed on the census, 1860. So, and then on, on other documents as well. So, let me look through some of these pictures here. If nothing else, I want to leave you with the idea here. Now, let me show you this. This is another relative of mine. He's a full blood. His name is George Moppin. Okay, he's buried at in Cornwall at the Moppin family cemetery. He's full blood Seminole. Okay, so don't say that we didn't intermarry. Don't say that we didn't mix, because we did. Okay. But when time came for us to get recorded, then that's when the problems came. That's when you had some folks coming in saying, hey, I want to get on the road. Here's $5, $10. Can we work it out? And that actually happened. If you read the Dawes Commission, any of the literature about the Dawes Commission and how those processes went down, you'll find that there. So, and that was done intentional. It's always about depriving us of what we got coming. We look at the reparations. You can pay everyone except us. You can pay the Japanese. You can help rebuild Germany. We built this country with our blood, sweat, and tears. Okay. There we go. Any other comments? I don't mind. I get all the time in the world. Thank you. I hope I get all the time in the world, but
and I want to share something with you, but it's kind of off topic, but I want to go back the whole thing about memory loss. Let me share this with you. So back in January, because I'm having my own issues as an old man, I bought some Nariva. In March, my mother, who's 95, asked me, how's it working? And I realized I'd been forgetting to take it. So don't feel bad, cuz.
I don't. I think I answered that stuff that I had forgotten about. I think I circled back
I think
around.
you doubled back on everything that you said you were going to discuss. So yeah, I think you covered all the bases.
Yeah, that's it. So.
I knew it was bad when I looked in the mirror one morning and go, what you looking at? And I figured I'd cross the line at that point. So
well, one thing I just want to make clear,
I'll shut up, Wendy. I'll shut up.
Oh, you're good. we have a lot of good ideas, but you know, like I said, I've lost since December of 2023. I've lost just in the month of December alone. I lost like 12 people who were very close to me in my circle, people, souls that I dealt with very closely. And then from December to, if I want to count it all, December, by February, the numbers had gotten up to 15. Then my dog died, and you know, it just got it. Everybody started dying, to the point that some clergy friends of mine had taken me out to dinner because you know they're concerned. You make sure you're all right. And you know, one of them was like, I don't know if I want to sit too close to you because everybody around you seem to be dying here lately. I said, man, if you don't stop, if we got a good laugh out of them. So, but one thing that it has done, it has made me be more determined to get information out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I wanted to go ahead and share, because even though I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon, we never know, you know.
Yeah.
And even though I'm in great health, anything can happen. It just takes a minute, you know, for something to go wrong. So if you have projects that you are working on, please share that information in some format or fashion. Years ago, I used to host 2 radio broadcasts, and one of my friends had been on me about, you know, you need to get back in there. You need to do a podcast. I'm like, I ain't got time, man. I went back to school. I'm trying to do all this other. But at some point, I'm going to restart that. The point that I'm making is this. That's what we're going to have to do now. Because a lot of what I just talked about, you're not going to hear it in school. I can't teach it in school. When I'm teaching history and different things in school, different subjects, I have a guide. I have a framework that I have to work within. Okay. I have to do what that tells me to do. Otherwise, I put myself at jeopardy. Okay. So the only way that we can learn is to revert back to what we used to do, you know, back in the early parts of the 1900s, up through the 60s and whatnot. Go back to teaching our own families. You know, you had the churches that had schools, you had communities that had schools that taught history. If you need to share your family history, for us, or for me, rather, here on Saturday morning, you know, we're going to talk about our family history, you know, because you need to know this. After we talk about family history, we're going to do some Bible study, because you are a special child and you really need to know this, because we got to stay on you. Because I was a handful. So, and then if you do everything okay, I might let you go to the movies. So that was an incentive. Okay, you clean the house. While we cleaning the house, you dust it and make sure you get those baseboards, because you ain't gonna get away with not getting those baseboards. While we're cleaning up, I'm gonna tell you about our family. Then we're gonna have a little Bible study. I want you to write a 1-page report about what you just read in the Bible, what that story was, whether it was about Solomon or whomever. You need to summarize that, put that in a 1-page report. After you do that, then we can go to the movies. That's what I came up under, you know. So the point that I'm trying to make is it's very important for us to teach one another, each one teach one. And it's even more important now because life is so uncertain, and then the political climate that we're in, you know, we have to make sure that our history is known so we won't become invisible again, you know?
Yeah.
So, any other? I mean, I'm free.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I don't mind. I can talk. Any other comments or questions?
Hey,
And
Ann, Denise again. I just wanted to say that was excellent. You are amazing as usual. You know, we talk all the time, but
Yeah,
you're
I wanted to get it out there, and you know, when the last time I talked to you, I told you I had 3 papers and a 3-hour test, and I had 2 weeks to get that stuff done. Well, I got the 3 papers done. I had the 1 paper get kicked back, and I had to redo it. Now all I have to do is the 3-hour test. So I got to get this test done by the 30th. And when I took the pre-test, it took me 2 hours and 50 minutes to take the pre-test, and my head hurt after I was done with that. So I'm still trying to, you know, so I don't want you to think I'm avoiding you. It's just I'm trying to focus.
Oh no, I know this is important. I get it.
I'll get back with you soon on some stuff. So
Oh, no, yeah, that's perfect. We got plenty of time. I just
okay.
wanted to say that, that was really great. And I'm glad you shared that. And just to, double down on the accuracy of information, to piggyback on your sentiment, your words, that it's imperative that we get our accuracy information, our family history, our true story correct, and
Right,
then
get it
put it
correct.
out there.
Right.
So I just want to say, yep, I'm with Ann.
Yeah, and again, I can't stress this enough because I was there last week, but like I said, I had to come back and write papers. Reach out wherever you are. Reach out to you. If you got cemeteries, if you got properties, reach out to your historic preservation societies and see what you can do to apply to have those properties designated as historical sites, because it is 2024. We're talking about stuff from the other centuries. Okay, so I'm sure that they qualify. And here's something else for those of you that have time to research right now. It would be interesting, and I'm just throwing this out there, if someone would go pull the plats, the historical plats, and some of this, see, this is what makes it fun. A lot of this stuff is digitized now. Back when I was learning how to do genealogy, it wasn't digitized.
Yeah.
We had to go to the source, and then we had to hope that we got someone that didn't mind helping us, that could go down to the basement and pull the box that this stuff was in, if that box was in the right place. And I'm just talking about experiences that I had in our historical society. So a lot has been digitized. There are a lot of resources out there. And let me say this, a lot of your historical societies and museums, they are short funded, they are short staffed. They don't have the staff to do the things that they would like to do. And I just want to, before I do finish, I want to throw these names out. I want to thank Matthew Pierce. He's transitioned into another position with Oklahoma History Center. I want to thank him for all of his help over the years. And then in Florida, there's Michelle Hearn with the State Historical Society there. They termed that a little differently, but those are people that you should reach out to. Michelle Hearn in Florida, and then Matthew Pierce. He's not in his position anymore, but his secretary gave me, I talked to his secretary at length in person, and I can't think of the lady's name that's kind of working in his slot. But the point I'm making, if you're in Texas, wherever you are, because we got a lot of folks in Texas, a lot of folks in California, on all the way around that's involved in this. Reach out to your historic preservation areas. Make sure those areas get listed to be considered for historic property. So, because there's a whole other set of benefits that they're entitled to, benefits that will help you protect those sites. Because like I said, here in Oklahoma, we've got sites that are threatened. We got folks hanging out selling drugs. We got folks have been murdered on one or two of the sites, or a murder was planned. And I'm just telling you what I know just from having been in law enforcement and having talked to law enforcement. But there are sites where some of the graves are falling in, and the areas are so desolate and so away that we need to actually try to get a court order to protect those people and get those graves removed, maybe to another cemetery, somewhere else. So we have to take care of our ancestors, because they're the reason why we're here in Indian Territory. They're the reason why we are free, because they fought. They fought the battles. The fighting got so hot, the U.S. Army said, time out. Can we talk about this and work something out? And the agreement was made, hey, if we stop fighting, we'll send you out here to Indian Territory. You could live as free people. And that's what happened. And my understanding, and that's what people need to understand too. Not everybody walked the whole way. The Seminoles didn't walk the whole way. We went by boat from Tampa to New Orleans. And then we ran into problems in New Orleans, and people thought they were going to be re-enslaved. And so some of the people jumped off the boat, escaped. That's why we have Black Seminoles in New Orleans. We're all over the place.
My cousin Jay's that side of the family, some of his family jumped off New Orleans and ended up in the bayou. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, we got folks in the Bahamas. And I tell people all the time, travel. I was in Savannah, Georgia in 2020, no, 2019. I had gone down there. I go to Georgia several times a year. And I had gone down there and I wanted to go to Savannah, first of all, because I'm very passionate about history. Savannah is one of the oldest cities on this continent. And I wanted to go see, you know, the history, just chill, relax. And while I was down there, I said, you know, I want to take a Black tour. And I looked on Google and I ran into this brother. I ran into this tour group called Day Clean Journey. And it was Dr. Jamal Toure. Cool brother, really nice, approachable, likable guy. And it was me and my sister cousin. And I say that because I got a cousin that's more like a sister. And she just calls me her sister. You know, I can't say sister cousin around her because she'll get offended. But we decided to go take his tour. Okay, so we called and he said, okay, I'm gonna come around and get you. And he said, it's a private tour. You know, I deal with small groups, yada, 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 yada. And it took him a minute to get to us. I was getting skeptical. And, you know, I've got a skeptical mind anyway, having, you know, being a retired police officer. I'm like, okay, maybe we need to call somebody else. You didn't pay him any money, did you? No, let's wait a few more minutes and let's see if the brother gonna show up. And he showed up. And nice van, and he apologized, you know, something, you know, he had a legitimate, you know, excuse. And he took us on this personalized tour of Savannah and the surrounding areas. And we got to see the slave quarters and all that stuff. We went to the first African Baptist church, which is the oldest church on the Black church on the North American continent. And we got to tour it. And inside, I think there was a PBS documentary. There's a documentary online somewhere where you can actually see that church was a part of the Underground Railroad. And there were holes that were drilled into the wooden floors of that church. And we talked about that to the point that there was another tour group, a larger one, that had met up with us at the church. And there were some people from that tour group that wanted to come with us, you know, and Dr. Toure was like, you know, well, no, this is kind of a private deal, but call me and we'll reschedule you. The point I'm trying to make is you can learn a lot of history just by traveling and finding things out for yourself. Dr. Toure gives an excellent resource on his experiences with the Black Seminoles that have come to see him for his tour. Another person that I suggest, if you haven't reached out to already, is Queen Quet. We got to support one another. You can learn something, okay? My interest in South Carolina comes from my mother's dad's people. Now I'm talking about my mother's people as Black Seminoles. But I got a whole nother large historical connection with my mother's dad's people as well, who were mostly European. So I've got interest in South Carolina that I want to go see and talk about. I've got interest in Texas, in Dale County, which is just outside of Austin. I didn't know that at the time because at one time I was stationed down there for a little while. And had I known, I would have spent some time down there while I was down there. But yeah, so the point I'm making, get out, travel, wherever Black Seminoles have been or wherever Gullah Geechee has been, go talk to see what these people are and try to make connections, because you just might make some connections. You don't know. You just might. You'd be surprised at what you learn. If you don't believe what they say, go research it. But Dr. Jamal Toure, excellent source. Queen Quet, great source. My plan in 2020 was to go to Savannah for a month. I was going to write and hang out and do some research. And then, of course, I was going to spend some time with Queen Quet up in South Carolina. But of course, COVID happened. And I've just been busy since that time. So, but that would have been a perfect time for me to have gone. I'm going to have to try to reschedule and get out that way. So, great resources.
Yeah, excellent resources. Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions or comments from anyone?
Can you hear me?
Who's that?
I hear somebody. Let me see.
iPad too.
Yeah, I see iPad too. Yes.
Okay, you okay? So you do hear me?
Yes, we do. We hear you well.
Okay. I have a question for Ann. I'm Ann's cousin.
Oh. Okay, which one?
Brenda.
Okay.
Hey, listen, I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay, I hope I can answer them. Go ahead.
I'm hoping so too.
Okay.
One, you showed that picture of mopping.
Yeah.
how is he related?
Okay, from the information I have here, he's going to be Minerva's either, I think it's her brother, either a brother or a son. I don't have it. Let me look up right quick and see what it says on my DNA profile. Have you taken a DNA test?
No.
That is something that I strongly, and let me say this about DNA tests. You know, there's a lot of different ones out there. I've taken two. I've taken 23andMe, which is a great one to take because they kind of show different things. And I've taken ancestry.com, and I'm working on pulling up. And so, you know, they're going to show some things that the other one may not show. For example, your Native American ancestry may or may not show up on a lot of the tests because there are specific tests out there designed to pick that up if it's available. And this is the person she's talking about, George. But my Native ancestry results are very minimal on ancestry, but they're more on 23andMe. Okay. So I'm saying it shows a higher percentage on 23andMe than what it does on ancestry. And let me point this out. You may not even get a reading on there. Okay. I've read about, you know, people who haven't had readings. As a matter of fact, I've talked to a few family members from our family that they took a test and it didn't even show them as having any, you know. So, you know, you can't always go 100%, you know, on everything. It always hopes to have some other evidence. So let me pull him up because I've got his profile. Hang on a minute.
Okay.
I
didn't mean to interrupt you, but is he related?
Okay, it said, can you see that?
I do. I see you posted that on the cemetery stuff. I've seen that.
Okay, but it shows a relationship, second great uncle.
Okay, but who is he connected to with
regard? He's connected to Minerva. Now let me say this about Minerva. I received an email address from one of our cousins that's full Native that lives in Tulsa. The picture that's on ancestry.com that shows Minerva, that's not Minerva, that's her sister Alice. Okay. So me and this cousin, this full Native cousin in Tulsa, we agreed to meet at some point. She was very helpful. I don't know who originally posted that picture, but that's not Minerva. That's going to be her sister Alice that's on ancestry.com. And let me show you the picture. Let me show you the picture so you'll know which one I'm talking about. Let's see here. Let me find it.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking is because I've gone to the Mormons to do some of that research on ancestry.com, and I keep coming up with a roadblock with tying Maupin and Minerva to Rosa.
Okay. And that's something that we'll probably have to go into detail about off of this.
That's where the relationship is going to come in, is to our grandmother's mother.
Here's a picture. It's not a good picture. This is not Minerva. That's her sister Alice.
Okay.
According to a full blood that says that's her family too, and that we were family. And let me say this: they were very, very welcoming. They want to meet us. So I just, like I said, I've been busy. I'm back in grad school. I got a lot of stuff happening. But hopefully this summer, since things have kind of slowed down a little bit, we can do that. Now let me say this, because this came up too. I was talking to some cousins on the Bruner side, from some of Nancy's and Caesar's. And I've heard this before. Supposedly we've got family who lost businesses down on Greenwood. Okay. That wouldn't surprise me because, you know, that was a place to be to go open a business. So I still need to look into that. There's a couple of folks in our family I need to talk to see if I could get some names and then work on doing some tracing from there. But that's stuff that I'm gonna have to do after June 30th. Because after June 30th, I'll have a little bit. I've got a whole nother term coming in, and I'll have like 6 months to get my work in. You know, so
Okay.
after
Okay.
June 30th, July 1, I'm gonna have time. But I'm working down to the wire right now. So
Okay. Well,
okay.
another thing was I was trying to figure out the relationship, like I said, to Rosa Faye
Okay.
with Moppin and Alice. And I tried that with the ancestry.com through the Mormons, and we couldn't really piece it together. But the connection has to be there and not on Plentyface's side.
Yeah,
Then
yeah. Well, yeah, it is on the Rosa side. That's where it's not on Plentyface side.
right. And
Yeah.
I had always heard that particularly your uncle Buck went under Choctaw because of Rosa, where most everybody else went under Seminole.
Under Seminole or Creek, yeah. And I was gonna, you know, I came across some documents from the 50s where my mother was trying to help them fill out their paperwork for membership, because a lot of that is come across from intermarriage. And let me say this, you have to kind of know the histories of the tribes, because I was talking to another distant relative on my dad's side in New York, and it wasn't Dr. Franklin, but they were trying to make a connection with the Chickasaws. And let me say this, and when sometime this evening or tomorrow, I will repost the Senate hearings up on our group page, and you can look at it. But historically, the Chickasaws, and especially the Choctaws, they had some real nasty negative choice words for us. And if you pull up the Senate hearings where we've been, you know, telling everybody y'all been receiving federal funds, you know, before Congress, and y'all treat us like crap, you know, when we sat down and had those discussions, which are still ongoing right now. The cameras panned out to some of the folks in the audience who happen to be, you know, from those tribes. And if you could look at the expressions on their face.
Well, I did see one. I saw the one particularly with Johnson, and I've met Johnson. We talked with Johnson before, so I did actually see that particular that hearing where they were in denial.
Yeah. So and that's historical, how they treat us, how they don't want, you know. And some of my readings, the Choctaws, they called us some real nasty words, and so did the Chickasaws. So you have to take that into consideration, you know, when you're dealing with them, you know, because a lot of them still had that mentality. And I told you, you know, what happened. And I told them when I was down there in February, I said, last time I was down here, I wore my clergy collar. I was coming back from a meeting, and I'm sitting up here as a woman of the cloth, and I get treated bad. Don't mean nothing. You still, you know, the N-word. You know what I'm saying? That's how y'all treated me. So, you know, it's just that, you know, unfortunately, and let me say this, there are some changes. Okay. It's, you know, folks are trying to change, but at the same time, there are not some changes. Okay. So people are still going to kind of believe like they want to believe and do like they kind of want to do. But, you know, this 2024, you know, I think, well, especially with the younger crowd and a lot of the younger people who, I think they begin to feel differently about us now. But then there are still some of those old heads, you know, who want to call us nasty names and see that we don't get, you know, what we should have coming to us, especially when the blood is running through our veins. You know?
Yeah. Well, I've always heard that.
Oh, and Brenda, hold your thought. I'm gonna come back to you.
Okay.
Let me get this out before I forget. I was talking to Karina a couple of months ago, and we were talking about trying to, you know, their efforts to get U.S. citizenship, you know, I have a good friend, and I'm gonna throw his name out there. I hope he doesn't kill me. His name is John Veely. He's a friend of mine. He did a lot of work historically, straight out of law school with the Seminole Nation and with the Cherokee. As a matter of fact, he took one of the cases to the U.S. Supreme Court. But John has a very successful immigration law practice where he helps people get U.S. citizenship. As a matter of fact, he's worldwide now. He has offices throughout the globe, but his main office is headquartered out of Norman, Oklahoma. So my suggestion to you is he has a very workable website, Wendy. His name is John, Jon Veely, Velie. It's the Veely Law Firm, and they're immigration attorneys. They have worked with a lot of athletes and other people to help them gain U.S. citizenship. If nothing else, I would like that you would just reach out and connect with them, and then go from there. You know, you may find something beneficial, you know, that you can work with. Okay, now Brenda, go ahead.
Oh, okay. And also you mentioned something about the plat maps.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If someone
Okay.
has the time, because I don't have time right now, I got all these deadlines coming up. If someone has the time, just try to search online, because what I would really love to see, some of these cemeteries and these towns and communities that are no longer in existence. I would like to see on some of the old plat maps what they all consisted of. And on some of those you can't. Okay. I mean, there are ways to look that stuff up. I just don't have the time to go look for it right now, because I've got these deadlines. Maybe, you know, later on in the summer, before I do go back, you know, to work, maybe I can find some time. But, you know, as I can't help but imagine when I go to these old cemetery sites, and let me say this, summertime, I do go, but not as much as I'd rather do it in the fall because of the snakes. Okay, because snakes are real. It's another reason why I wear boots. But I'm not saying I won't go out, and I usually have a crew that meets me out there, and we'll, you know, try to survey a site, and, you know, we all got guns and badges and dogs, canines, usually with us. But I have to give them time to be able, we have to coordinate our time, and you know, I always give them some money for fuel, you know, because they come from different parts of the state, but they're just as interested in helping us as well. So that's another thing. We like to go out to these cemeteries and see who's what does it look like, survey it. Is this something that we should consider reaching out to the Oklahoma State Historic Preservation Office on? Is it something that's been well maintained? You know, we've got a bunch of them that have, well, I won't say a bunch, we've got a few of them that have been well maintained, and a lot of them that haven't been. And that's not just in Seminole County, that's all over the state. And it's probably nothing, it's nationwide. And there's a nationwide push to save our African American and Native American cemeteries, because, you know, you if you just even Google that, you'll find where in different places there've been apartment buildings and shopping centers built on top of cemeteries, you know, and we have to protect our elders and our ancestors.
Well, I got a question, and maybe this might be something that you and I maybe need to talk privately about, because I do have a question about our cemetery.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there's been a lot. There's been some criminal activity going on there, involving the loss of human life, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. You know, so that's you know, we just kind of step up activities around there. So, and
okay, because I've talked to a couple of them that, you know, we were starting to be a little concerned. We saw that you put the sign out there. Yeah. And we were talking about, as far as that particular land goes, as well as possibly maybe putting a fence or something.
Yeah, that's been a long-term goal from the aunts and uncles who passed on. And that's still a goal, is to get the fence put up, even just to cut off the front, you know, even if just to start with that and then getting the fence repaired in the back. But you know, the reality of it is, you know, we got folks watching it, you know, good guys watching it. And then there's some bad guys that are watching it too, because they've been down there doing their business. And like I said, someone lost their life down there. So, you know, we have to do the best we can to you know, just stay on top of it until we can get a fence, you know, put up. So, but do know that property is protected under Title 8 of Oklahoma State statute. So.
Okay, not to be sold.
Yeah, it can't. No, not it. They can't be. It can't be sold.
Okay. Okay.
Protected, yeah.
Okay, because I know one of the conversations that we had with Chief Johnson was he was interested in buying and expanding that casino, as well as purchasing surrounding lands on both sides of the freeway there, the highway.
And you know, the other part of that, and that's probably better for, you know, another conversation, but the other part of that too, is going to be a difference between surface rights and mineral rights. So generally, when property is sold, that doesn't include the mineral rights.
Right.
Only the surface rights. So if the property ever does, if there ever is a mutual agreement, then you'd still retain possession of the mineral rights unless that's specifically put in the final contract.
Right. Right. Oh, okay. Okay.
So that's that.
I came in late, so I missed maybe about an hour and a half of.
Well, it's been recorded.
Yeah, it's being recorded.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pull it up.
Yeah, so I will try to have this available by tomorrow once the recording has been uploaded. Are there any other questions or anything that anyone has? Comments?
No, I don't.
No. Well, Miss Ann, I want to say thank you so much for your incredibly passionate and powerful presentation that you've given. I knew it was going to be amazing just in the little time that we talked, but you know, just thank you so much. You've given us like 2 hours, almost 40 minutes of your time.
Oh, and
so
I can talk
thank
some more.
you so much.
Okay. The information needs to get out there. We never know. Someone, you know, take this, use it to teach the kids, because like I said, what was really disappointing was when I get up, you know, in front of my relatives who used to sing those songs.
Yes, and they didn't know the song.
And they didn't even know the songs.
Yeah.
So that told me that we're losing a lot of the culture.
Yeah, and like you said, you're a Renaissance woman, so you know, you're bringing back, you're restoring, you're keeping so much of the history. So you're definitely leading the charge.
So now I can go to the beach, and if I decide
and hang out.
if I decide to expatriate myself and leave the United States and move to a beach, then I can do that. And you
we
guys
might call on you a few times. So the only thing, does everybody have your contact info? Does everybody who needs your contact info have it? Like, especially your email address?
Yeah, email address. Do you have, you can put it in the comment section?
Yeah, let me put it in the comments real quick.
Put it in the comment section.
Okay.
And it's EA Gaines Ali, ALI at gmail.com.
Okay.
EA Gaines Ali at gmail.com.
So we'll give everybody a second to take that down.
And then I'm gonna give you the other one.
Okay.
It's more for the cemetery stuff. It's Fay, F-A-Y, cemetery, CEMETERY.
Okay.
Okay. 73.
73? Okay.
So it should say Fay Cemetery, okay, 73 at gmail.com.
All right, got it. There you go.
That's it.
So everybody who wants to find that or take that down, that's two ways to contact Miss Ann. And I just want to say again, thank you to everyone. yeah, this has been a wonderful evening. You know, I'm just so impressed by all the information that you divulged this evening. And I feel like we could go about 2 hours more. So,
We probably
you
could,
know,
and
I
we
might
may
have to
need
have you
do that
back.
again. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
do that again.
Yeah, I would definitely look forward to that. So
And
again,
let me again just to reiterate, the site that I created, it's independent. It's basically a place where people can come together and post their ideas, or concerns, comments, share family if they're looking, maybe get some information. Okay, and it's just an independent site. So it's,
yeah,
you know, I want everybody to participate. I used to let everyone just free post, but it really started getting wild, so I kind of have to screen some of the posts now. And but it's a site where everyone is welcome to come and learn more about, you know, our family, or if they have questions, you know, they can reach out. I had to back off a little bit because, like I said, in December, month of December alone, I lost 10 people, 10 to 12 people out of my life. I can't even remember. Some of them were classmates, some of them were fellow musician friends, just real people, close people in my life. And then the numbers kept going up. So I just kind of backed off some things because I had to let myself heal.
exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I've been with a lot of that, but I still do check, you know, so. But now you guys know how to reach me if I'm a little slow, like I said, especially to the end of this month, because I gotta get that exam. There's 3 hours that I'm gonna have to push through. So July 1 is a whole new day. I'll have a little bit more time.
All right, awesome. We'll certainly be thinking about you on test day.
Please do.
Sending you all the positive vibes. So we know you got this, so don't worry.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, everyone. So thank you so much. Everybody have a good rest of the evening and look forward to seeing y'all here in about another month. So take care.
All right.
Thank
care,
you.
guys.
All right. Bye-bye.